Hello, everybody. So, we have a very interesting topic today, which I assume we're going to get a lot of follow up questions on, and we'll probably end up having to do a part 2 or 3 or 4. We are going to be comparing hypnosis to drugs slash plant medicine. And I know a lot of people wonder about, well, okay, so how does hypnosis compare to these plant medicines? And people would like to know because maybe they want more than one approach to healing. Maybe they feel hypnosis can't work for them. Maybe they are scared to try the plant medicine and they'd like to try hypnosis as a great alternative. There are a lot of different reasons that people might be interested in one or all of the above types of potential healing. So, as always, we have the wonderful Aaron Case with us. And as always, his great questions sparked today's topic. And so, I know that Aaron has something. He, of course, gave me a list of about 15 different questions that he has. I'm sure we'll delve into even more. And he wanted to make sure that we covered one topic specifically. So I want to start there because you guys know me. I have the gift of gab and I might go 100 different directions and then forget his most important topic. And I want to make sure that I'm respectful and honoring his most important topic. And then I also want to say for Aaron and I have no idea how legal it is to talk about having done certain stuff. So let's just say that everything that Aaron and I are talking about, it's hypothetical. It's alleged.
Completely.
It's
Yes.
super hypothetical. If I were to do plant medicine, this is how I would no, it so everything we'll be telling you is straight. But I just want to say it's hypothetical just in case somehow that gets a good CYA, cover your ass for the two of us.
Absolute hypothetical.
Okay. If you were
For
to ask
entertainment purposes
questions,
only.
well, hopefully it is entertaining too. Okay, Aaron, so what is your most important thing that you would like to make sure that you share with everyone regarding a specific plant medicine? I found this to be really interesting. I know they will too.
Well, most importantly, one of the most commonly used plant medicines out there is marijuana, and it's used across all places, across all cultures, in all countries. And marijuana is definitely a plant medicine, but it's a plant medicine that's just used daily. And some people don't think of it as a plant medicine, and they also don't take the time to address it as a plant medicine. So number one, wherever your marijuana is sourced from, whether it be a dispensary on the street or wherever, number one, I would recommend getting your marijuana sourced from somewhere where you kind of have an idea of the path it's taken and hasn't had a low vibrational path from the field to getting into your hands. And if it has that low vibrational path, you want to be able to remove that. Sometimes you'll have times with marijuana where it'll, at certain points, hit low vibrational points. So I've heard of people going into dispensaries, and the dispensary was a very low vibrational place, and they bought marijuana in the dispensary, and it didn't function as well because it was surrounded by such a low vibration. If you go into a dispensary and buy, you want to buy from a dispensary where everybody's happy because it makes a difference as far as the energy of the actual plant. So when you get it, even if you get marijuana from a happy place, you want to cleanse your marijuana. Uh, do some type of sage it, cleanse it with your hands, with your energy, but by whatever method you choose to do so. Use your heart, but literally cleanse it and cleanse it of everything that it potentially may have picked up between that seed getting planted and literally you holding it in your hands. Because anytime you don't cleanse it, you're taking in that low vibrational energy. Some people, when they use marijuana, they're affected by that low vibrational energy that's coming along with it. And every time I hear someone say that they use marijuana and they're feeling less from using marijuana, it's because of the fact that they're not cleansing it. And
Good.
there's so many things that happen in that process. And one of the things, just in general, with plant medicines overall, is you have to communicate with the plant medicine and talk to it. You have to. I mean, I go as far as, and I haven't used all the plant medicines, but in my opinion, you talk to it and you tell your plant medicine, marijuana or whatever it may be, what your intention is and what you want to get. And also, if that plant medicine says not today, you listen, not today. If it's marijuana and your marijuana is telling you not today, don't smoke it. But most of the time, people have marijuana that says not today, and they're like, I didn't hear that. I didn't hear it. I didn't hear it. I've seen it.
Okay, so here's a question I have for you, because I know that you just said, hey guys, cleanse the marijuana. And I would go so far as to say that probably applies to everything that we're ingesting.
It does.
Yeah, so
It does.
food, etc. And I know that a lot of people do a really nice ritual whenever they wake up, and they do a nice like gratitude cleansing process for themselves and protection process for themselves, and then do the same thing at night, a cleansing process and a protection process. And those who are familiar with hypnosis probably would understand what that entails, which is really just like you were saying, setting intentions, letting the energy move through, asking for the help of the releasing or the protection. So so I don't want people to think like, okay, so if I have a sandwich, got to cleanse. Okay, if I take a shower and now there's water on me, got to cleanse. Oh, well, what about that shampoo? Okay, got to cleanse. So for me, I like efficiency. So I probably would go the route of, well, let's cleanse self and protect self, and then express gratitude for those good things. Like you guys know that I'm not particularly religious, but I'm okay with the really nice parts of religion. And here's a really nice part of religion. Studies show that families or people who pray and express gratitude before eating their meal, they really think that the food tastes better. So there is this actual uplifting that happens. So whether you're religious or not, we can all be really grateful for the water that we're drinking, or the I don't know, the bubble bath that we're taking, or just the nice thing that we're getting to experience. And the gratitude does seem to have its own positive, uplifting, cleansing, if you will, effect. So Aaron, because you and I are trained in different schools, how would you go through the process of cleansing, whether it's marijuana or something else that people would be experiencing or ingesting?
It's, well, anything. The general practice for me, I stay grounded all the time, and I set an intention in the morning, as far as cleansing myself and cleansing and being grateful for everything that I'm going to take into my body through the course of that day. When I eat, I express gratitude for what I'm eating. And a lot of times people think of expressing the gratitude for just the fact that you're eating. But your gratitude can come down to, just like I say it with the plant, from the seed getting planted, you can have gratitude for each and every hand that your food took to get to you. So if you're eating meat, you have gratitude for the animal that gave its life. You have gratitude for the farm that raised that animal. You have gratitude for the butcher. You have gratitude for the store. All those things. And I don't eat meat, but I'm just giving that as an example. If it's a plant, you have gratitude for the hands that place that seed into the grass, into the ground. You have gratitude for the hands that drove the tractor or the implement or whatever item it was. And every step in the process, every hand, you have gratitude for every hand that contacts it. The cashier, gratitude for that person. And then having that gratitude, you just state that you have gratitude, and you cleanse what it is that you're about to eat. That makes it so that everything goes into your body. And also, if you're eating something that could be potentially suspect, you can also set an intention that nothing that you're able to release anything that does not serve your greater good, which is something a lot of people do, because people frequently eat things they know that, well, they have no business.
Like what? Like Oreos?
Oh,
I gotta do.
oh, Well, I mean, Oreos is one. Oreos. Look, Oreos taste good. I don't eat Oreos because they have high fructose corn syrup. I I try to avoid any food with high fructose corn syrup. But
Mhm.
if you're going to eat Oreos, then you set an intention of nothing bad is going to maintain in my body. My body is going to immediately release anything that does not serve.
Yeah, and I've
I
heard
choose
that.
not to do that at all.
And isn't there something? There's a saying, and I'm going to butcher it a little bit, but there's a saying something like, "A happy burger is better for you than a sad salad." And essentially, what that
Yeah,
means is if the thing that you're eating really does make you happy. And I think people need to be very aware of how they're feeling and why they're doing what they're doing, because sometimes people think that a craving is going to make them happy, but it's actually more like an addiction. Like, oh, I need this thing. So that's not a healthy happy. I mean, a really healthy happy. So when somebody is feeling that healthy happy about a food, even if it's not the best food choice, technically, if eaten in moderation, it probably actually is better for the person than them forcing themselves to eat a sad, like, I don't really want to eat this, but I'm doing it because I feel like I have to. Like a sad salad actually is, you got a side of cortisol that's flowing through you. Um, and I want to second what you're saying about whatever you're consuming and the conditions, the environment that it's in, that it really can affect how you process it. And I started noticing that for the first time when it came to wine. I don't drink alcohol any longer. I don't process it very well, and even if I have some in moderation, I can get a headache for 2 full days afterward, and I don't enjoy alcohol very much anymore. So like that little bit of enjoyment is not worth the brain fog or the headache for 2 full days. But I used to process it better and I used to enjoy it more. But I did notice that there was this weird thing that would happen, that whenever I would go over to this one friend's house, that I would get so hungover and like a really bad, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter if I had a little to drink, a lot to drink, a moderate amount to drink. It did not matter. It was consuming it there that always had the effect. And she's absolutely lovely. But her husband at the time was experiencing very high levels of stress, and so I started to wonder, like, is there a chance that it's actually the alcohol, the liquid? And we know that water has the ability to really be impacted by energy, and water and wine is water. Um, and so I started to wonder about that. And then the other thing that really crystallized it for me is that Charles, the husband, Charles and I were on this really nice road trip, and we would have like a glass of wine or whatever throughout these different places that we were staying. And then there was this one restaurant, and it was maybe a week long, week and a half long trip. And there was this one restaurant that just, man, everything felt bad about it. You could hear the people in the back gossiping very negatively about other people in the community. It was this very small town, and so I even though I was new to the town, I knew who they were talking about. That's how small of a town it was, and I was like, man, these, and who they were speaking ill of, I thought they were very friendly people, and I thought, man, this restaurant is rough, and I was hungover and felt terrible the next day. Now, it could have also been from the food that I ate. Maybe it was the wine and the pizza. I don't know. But just consuming something in that environment, and I wasn't as wise as I am today, and I wouldn't have even had a thought like, oh, cleanse this. Oh, let your gratitude overwhelm the negativity. So that's actually the primary energy that you're working with while you're consuming this. But yeah, I think there very much is something to that. And if people start to think back about patterns of experiences, or in the future start to just notice what there's a possibility that this is accurate, and they start to notice the patterns of, does this ever happen in a certain environment around a certain person, if you are in a certain mood, right? So we process things differently depending on how we're feeling. So yeah, it's a lot to think about. Is there anything else that you want to say? Because I know this is your most important topic. Anything else you want to say about the cleansing or gratitude or protection process?
no, that's it on that. I just hope people look at that aspect And I think the other thing I mentioned, we'll get into that as we talk about the different types of plant medicine.
Okay, yeah, and then I figure where I should probably start is just listing which things I have allegedly, hypothetically tried. And then if we don't get into one of those things very deeply today, then at least it's on record so that people who are listening to this, they can go, okay, Courtney, you did a deep dive into combo, but you didn't say anything about DMT, right? So I just want to make sure that I say the list, and then if people are curious, they can ask me follow-up questions. And guys, if you want to ask me follow-up questions, you can always write a comment in this video. And you can also always email me at courtney@courtneystarkey.com. If you have a question for Aaron, you can email me, but you can also email him. And I think his email address is even in his little handle right there. And it's peace4healers@gmail.com. So you can always contact either one of us if you have follow-up questions ever. Okay, so here's the list. I'm going in chronological order, by the way, because I was like, man, it's kind of a long list. I need to have some sort of system here. And I jokingly put sugar as a little kid. Thumb sucking. That actually, that was definitely my first addiction. So we should probably put that. How does thumb sucking compare to hypnosis? They're both pretty soothing. Okay. All right. So the more interesting things that I've consumed, obviously alcohol. We'll start there. I should say I've never had cigarettes or nicotine, so I can't speak to that at all, how it compares. I've
Really?
actually I've never had coffee either. I have had caffeine. I like to joke that my drugs of choice at this point in my life are caffeine and oxytocin. Oxytocin is the love hormone. So those are my two drugs of choice at this point in my life. But okay, so I've had alcohol, I've had marijuana, I've had mushrooms, psilocybin. I've had, it's spelled Kambo. I'm pretty sure the pronunciation is combo. If you guys haven't heard of that, I'm happy. And actually, I'll probably talk about it today because it's one of my favorite stories regarding, and it's actually from a frog. So not all of these things are plant medicine because they're not all from plants. And that includes the ones that are from frogs and toads. Then there's ayahuasca, LSD, MDMA, DMT from a pin. So that's the synthetic version. One expired Adderall. Figured I should list it if I'm doing the complete list. And DMT from the toad. So like the ceremonial shamanic version of DMT. And that's the list. I think it's 10. If we're not counting sugar or thumbs. Huh?
So I just want to clarify for anyone that doesn't know. DMT is basically poison from a poisonous toad. Combo is from a poisonous frog.
Yeah, combo. Sorry, guys, I'm going to swear a little bit. Combo will knock you on your ass. That one does not play around. And again, I'm pretty sure I'm going to tell that story because it's one of my favorites and it's got a great lesson and it ties into hypnosis so directly. So, Aaron, and then guys, I'm going to pull up the chat and make sure I can see it. Ooh, okay. Oh, interesting. I think that, I don't know if that's spam or if that's real, but somebody said everyone should know that the most cancer research out there is largely fraud. I'm not going to disagree. I don't know. So we got it. Okay. Thank you, Tarot Destroyer. Am I getting spam on my lives?
I hope not, but that's true. But we'll see.
I don't know. Anyway, anytime I ever get spam or a heckler, I'm like, I've really made it.
Well, it is a sign of success, unfortunately. But the thing is, some of these things, especially psilocybin, can be used to treat your mental health when you're suffering from something like cancer.
Yeah.
So, if that is spam, the person that spam source is on the right track and in alignment.
I can't tell because I'm like, I get what she's saying. I also can't tell if it's spam or not. So it's because it's a little off topic. But okay, so Aaron, I know that combo is the one that really is calling to me to talk about today. Mushrooms also, actually ayahuasca also. What on that list caught your attention? You want me to say it again?
The DMT and combo, and I definitely want to talk about psilocybin because of the broad uses for microdosing and the misconceptions about psilocybin.
Okay, sure. What do you want to talk about regarding the misconceptions around psilocybin?
It's
Oh,
well,
there's one more. There's another drug. The drops of psilocybin. I don't. It's microdosing, but I don't know what the term is.
well, I
Um,
mean, but it's still psilocybin, isn't it?
I'm not an expert in this, but yeah, I think so. But again, microdosing, but it is a different experience than the mushrooms. But it's a distilled
But
dropper version of things.
it's still the microdosing is basically just the lower amount that you're using for a certain number of days, isn't it? It's still the same. It's done in a different compound. But most of the time, when you do psilocybin, it's my understanding that there's some other medium that you take with it. As far as typically taking psilocybin,
What do you mean, other medium?
as far as mixing it with something,
Oh,
um,
what do you
are
think you're supposed to mix it with?
I've never done psilocybin, but when I've seen people doing it, I've heard of people eating just the psilocybin as is. I have heard of people doing that, but at anything else that's done other than the actual shroom, I've
Hmm.
heard of it being broken down into a powder or put into a liquid
Hmm.
into a liquid form. Most of the time, I my understanding is when it's in a powder form, the person might mix it into a smoothie or something of that type.
Okay.
And the form that you're talking about is an alcohol, and of course, in capsules. If it's powder, putting it in the capsules.
Hmm. I didn't know about that. So I'll tell you what my experience was like. I should also say that even though I absolutely felt respectful and reverent of the mushrooms, the process, I still was pretty low on research, which I find to be regrettable in terms of me looking up, well, what's the best process for microdosing? What should I maybe be mixing it with or not mixing it with? So I would say that my experience is under researched. And I also want to preface all of this because I'm about to say some judgmental things, probably not in a mean way, but just in a, if I'm saying it's this compared to this, I have to express a judgment of like how I felt about one thing compared to the other. And so I want to make sure that I say everything in my experience, a it's it's me, I'm biased, right? So it's going to be going through my filter, my body, my mood that day. So if anybody is like, oh, Courtney, like how could you say that, this is better than that, or this didn't function very well, or you dislike this, or you love this, guys, just know I'm just talking about my experience. So hopefully it can be helpful, but it's never, my experience is never the end all be all, period. And I want to say this, spoiler alert, I'm going to end up telling you guys that I like hypnosis way better than any of these other drugs. And here's the thing, that's not going to apply to everyone. But of course, it's going to apply to me because I'm so biased, because I love hypnosis so much. And hypnosis is my path, my purpose, my mission. So it wouldn't make very much sense for my being, my soul, the universe to have me on this like hyper focused path of hypnosis. And then it goes, but guess what? You like toad venom, the best. I'll be like, what? Like twist. So yeah, hypnosis I found to be far superior to everything that I'm about to talk about in several ways. I might as well just go ahead and say why. I wrote these down because it's actually a number of ways. I think that hypnosis is superior for these reasons. Again, for me and probably for plenty of people, but not for everyone. Hypnosis is superior to every drug that I'm about to talk about because hypnosis, once you learn how to do it, it's very low cost. And if you learn how to self guide, hypnosis is free. And You don't have to be dependent on, so you don't have to put it in a budget for it. You don't have to be dependent on a facilitator. You can self-guide. When it comes to the legality, hypnosis is legal. When it comes to the quality of it, you have the ability to self-guide. So it's the quality that you and your experience are bringing to the table, slash, you know how to find a good practitioner. You can have a soul empowering hypnosis session, have a very lovely experience. The other thing is, when you are taking a substance, I think that you lose some autonomy that is very valuable. So you basically, it's like getting on a roller coaster. And even if the roller coaster is awful, too bad, like you can't get off. If something happens in hypnosis and you want to shift gears, you can. And with these other substances, man, if you want to shift gears, too bad, too bad, too bad. And I get that some people will say, well, maybe that's a good thing that you can't shift gears, that you can't be overly in control and you can't truncate your process because like you got to go into the deep end. I get all of that, but hypnosis for me, again, it's my experience. I'm very biased, but hypnosis for me, those deeper experiences that I've had are way deeper, way more emotional, way more impactful, better for me. Like hypnosis for me has hit the mark every single time. Better impact, better experience, legal. The most mystical experience I've ever had in my life, I self-guided it. So I didn't need anybody. I didn't have to book an appointment. I didn't have to pay for anything. It was, so we should probably talk about that. The most mystical experience. I don't know what happened, but I can tell you about it. So let's talk about that after we talk about psilocybin. Aaron, you want to chime in at all?
Mike, I have a question in regards to getting to the point with the mystical experiences.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to get to the point where you were able to have the experiences in hypnosis to the level that you're speaking of? Because you've taken a lot of classes. Is this something that you were just able to do as one of the things that's in your wheelhouse, or is this something that came at a certain point?
I think that everybody has the ability to do what I'm about to talk about, and I'll take you through the boring version of it. So people will go like, oh yeah, that is kind of boring. Anybody could do that. Excuse me. The very first session that I ever had, I was listening to a YouTube video that was to take you into a past life. The only thing that I saw as a result of, and by the way, it's incredible that I saw anything from a past life. It's like amazingly cool, but it's still super boring and barely anything at all. The only thing that I saw was that I was in a really pretty, like blue-gray Victorian era dress, standing on a platform. I'm getting goosebumps right now. Standing on a train platform, I suspected in London, waiting because I was about to go somewhere. It was like one of those 1, 2, maybe 3-second things where you just get all that information and that's it. And I spooked myself a little bit because I was like, was that real? So that was actually my first experience, like maybe a 1, 2, 3-second drop in and then going like, oh, what was that? And then like pulling myself out of it completely. So anybody who's like, oh, I don't know that was how I started. Okay. Session number 2. It's actually a group hypnosis event in Honolulu. Brian Weiss came out to Hawaii for the first and I think only time ever. And I just happened to be living in Hawaii at the time. And when he was taking us through one of the guided group hypnosis experiences, I did see a past life as a World War II battlefield nurse. And in that, again, very brief memory, but when I say brief, I would say this went on for maybe a minute. I saw myself holding the hand of a dying soldier, and we didn't speak at all, just looked at each other, and there was so much love to be felt. And he was dying. You know what I mean? So it was very like high levels of emotion, But the highest level of emotion, you would think it would be like fear or sadness, or it was actually love, which was remarkable because at that point in my life, I was not particularly loving. Like, that's not necessarily how somebody would describe me. And I thought, like, wow, that's one of the strongest moments and feelings of love that I've ever felt in this lifetime as Courtney. Interesting. And again, not too much to write home about. Pretty brief group session. So a lot of times people will push aside the opportunity to have a group hypnosis session, and I would say that is probably not a great choice. If you have the opportunity to do a group hypnosis session, you should. Some of the most powerful sessions I have ever had, like a miraculous healing, I'm not exaggerating when I say that, a miraculous instantaneous healing that I had was in a group session after, for a year and a half, I had debilitating pain in this right shoulder, and I've had a lot of one-on-one hypnosis sessions to try to fix it. Nothing would work. And these were a bunch of one-on-one sessions. And in a group hypnosis session, that's when it instantly healed. So if anybody's ever like, oh, I can't afford a one-on-one session, or have a group, go to a group session. They are very, very miraculous. And I facilitate a lot of group sessions, and I get to hear a lot of really good feedback from people who have attended my group sessions. So you can find a facilitator. I do all my sessions on Zoom, so they are available to people, very inexpensive, very accessible. Then the third session that I had, that was a one-on-one session with Jamie, my practitioner that I met at that group hypnosis event,
Can
Brian
I,
Weiss.
can I
Mhm.
can I jump in with a question before you
Yeah,
move on?
of
For,
course.
with the group hypnosis sessions, which
Hmm.
I've attended some, they are great. But
Hmm.
with those sessions, does the energy of the group make a difference as far as how much you actually get out of the session? So, for instance, can the energy be better for a person in a group hypnosis session versus a one on one session? Because you may have a group of people that are all working on something, and that group energy makes a difference.
I have had people say that before, where there is definitely a vibe, where there's a bit of a swelling of the energy, where people are picking up on others. Not, I don't necessarily mean in a, hmm, not in the psychic way necessarily, where you're getting interruptions from other people's energy and sessions, but it's just like the vibe is really, really good because you've got a
Well,
lot of people who are focused on the same positive intention, or not intention, but experience.
and I'm saying just as far as everyone having the same energy, not necessarily any connection specific, as in any crossover between the individuals. But let's take an example: a group healing session where you have 5 or 10 people that are all healing from arthritis.
Hmm.
Would that be a more potent session than doing a one-to-one healing session for someone that's healing from arthritis?
I think it really depends. I think that some people, some days, because the moment is right, they're going to get so much out of that group session. And then other people, other days, because the moment is right, they're going to get more out of the one-on-one session. I've had incredible, like I said, that miraculous instantaneous healing. That was a group session. The most mystical experience I've ever had in my entire life. That was me self-guiding a hypnosis session. Some of the most powerful emotional healing that I've ever done. Those were one-on-one sessions. So I would say to people, if you have the opportunity to do hypnosis, and sometimes that's group, and sometimes that's a guided hypnosis recording on YouTube, and sometimes that's self-guided, and sometimes it's having a one-on-one. So I would just say, have your variety of experiences and what you're meant to clear, receive, heal, experience. That's the thing that's going to happen for you in that moment. But you have to put yourself out there and have those experiences. And the more regularly that you do it, I think that there is this exponential snowball effect of the more you do it. So if you have session one, session two is going to be even better. Session three is going to be even better, especially if you do them at least somewhat close together. When I was first starting hypnosis, I was having a session every single week, and it was bananas amazing. The results that I was getting. A lot of people would say, "Okay, how are you supposed to? You can even if it is you putting in your calendar that you're going to listen to a helpful guided hypnosis recording on YouTube." So there's no, because a lot of times people will say, "Oh, I don't have the money for that." You don't need the money for that. You just need, 45 minutes and some dedication. That's all you
Yeah,
need.
that's true.
So I think that people really should experience it, and they're never going to know what they like the best, what's the most effective. They're never going to know unless they're experiencing it.
Okay. And I took us off on a tangent, so we can get
That's
back.
I mean, it's good advice. It's good advice. And then Valerie, she was listening as I was saying that I don't really know what to, like I didn't do any research when it came to microdosing. And then she said that she's heard of people doing drops over a 2-week period or so, and that it can be quite helpful for depression. And so that's the microdosing of psilocybin. So thank you, Valerie. I'm glad that she is more informed than I am. So I would say people, whenever they're thinking about doing these things, to definitely do more research than I did. I researched my mushrooms experience. I shouldn't say it that way. I prepared. That's a better way to say it. I prepared for my mushrooms experience in a different way, where the person that I got them from, she's a doctor. And I thought, if I'm going to try, and remember, mushrooms, that's number 3 on my list. I went alcohol, pot one time ever because I did not like the experience, and then mushrooms. So I took a big quantum leap, but I'd heard so many good things about them. And like I said, it was a doctor who was also saying really good things about them. And she lived locally to me. And I was like, if I'm ever going to try this thing, it's going to be sourced from this lady who I know and trust and respect. And so sure enough, I just said like, hey, any chance that maybe I could pick that up? And she was like, yes. And then she gave me directions for what to do, but it was directions very much in the way that a doctor would give you directions, where it's like,
Mhm.
this is the dosage, this is how you prepare it. If you have too strong of a reaction, take a Benadryl, that will neutralize it. So she's very doctorish about it, which is adorable. And I was very patient about it and didn't like ask any spiritual type. She did say to set an intention. She was like, set an intention. So she did cover that. But yeah, I didn't really do any other types of research. And so for that, it was these, I remember what type they were, but they were small, kind of grayish brown, and you just steep them in a tea. And so you drink the tea water and then you ate the mushrooms. And I can't remember how many I had. I feel like it was maybe 1, 2, or 3. It wasn't much. It was probably 2 or 3. I don't remember. And it was fine, but I had no desire to do it again. And they just sat around for a while. And then eventually I had a client who was interested. And she mentioned that in her session. And then I let the sessions conclude, and I was like, hey, I got some leftover stuff. Do you want to take it? She was like, sure. Not take it, ingest it, but like take it, like let it go out the house with you. That was back when I was doing sessions in person. So yeah, they're only over Zoom now. So you guys are on your own.
So, for all of your experiences, was it just you, or did you ever have a group experience or an experience with a shaman?
Okay, great question. And then we'll drill down into psilocybin wherever you want to talk about it. So when it comes to alcohol that has been done in groups and as a solo adventure, pot, I've never had pot by myself. I don't enjoy pot at all, like any version of it. Like I said, the first time that I had pot, I did like the worst possible way that you can. I was 22, and it was New Year's Eve, end of 2001, beginning of 2002, had way too much alcohol, and was in California in the valley. And pot, even though it wasn't legalized all at the time, it was everywhere. And I thought, like, oh, yeah, drunken decision. Oh, I might as well try this. I don't know when I'm going to have access to it again, because I don't know, like, people who do drugs. Like, I don't know what I'm going to have this opportunity again. And so I tried. And because I've never smoked anything ever, cigarettes, nothing. I don't really understand the mechanics of inhaling. And so I tried and like did like the worst possible job ever. And then this guy, I almost said gentleman, but I don't think I'm going to use that term because I don't think what he did was very helpful. According to people who were in the room who understand pot, he took the drag and then blew it into my mouth, and then I was able to receive it. But apparently, he gave me way too much for somebody who's never had it before. And man, that was a bad, bad, bad experience. Just to give, sorry if anybody's squeamish, um, just to give a highlight slash low light of how bad it was. I was so out of it. I was sitting outside, thankfully. I was sitting outside on a chair near a table. I was so out of it that I did not know that I was throwing up until, and apparently I was leaned over the table, throwing up right above the table. And I didn't know I was throwing up until the backsplash of my own vomit was hitting me in the face. That's how I figured out I was throwing up. Like, it was a very bad experience. And pot slows your perception of time. So it's a hellish, nightmarish experience because everything is taking so long. And so my roommate who was there, I said to him, it's funny, like even when I'm that out of it, I'm still very practical. I said to him, I was like, how long am I going to feel like this? And he goes, between 2 and 4 hours. And I go, how long has it been? And he goes, are you sure you want to know? And I was like, yes. And he goes, about 15 minutes. And I was like, oh my God. Like, this is basically hell. I'm in hell. And this is what I mean when I say, when you are having drugs, you're at the mercy of so much. And there's not always mercy to be found. And my roommate, bless his heart, he even said to me, he goes, do you want me to take a picture of you so you remember this day and you never do this again? And I was like, sure. And so, and this is back in the day with like real cameras, and like people had to like print out their photos and or take them to a developer. And so we got the pictures back. I looked dead. I looked dead in that picture. And you asked questions. This might be a good segue into the soul conversation. I think that one of the reasons that drugs, again, guys, I'm sorry if I'm hurting any feelings or if I'm like speaking out of being poorly informed, but it feels like a lot of these substances, when done particularly too frequently or too high of a dose, it does not feel like it connects you more to your soul. It really feels like a disconnect from your soul. I don't know who I was, what I was, where I was, when I was. Like, that whole experience was really just very hell realm. It was bad. And then some alcohol experiences are very hell realm, where like you've got the spins, and yeah. So alcohol, I think, is hangovers can be very hell realm as well. So you want to talk about pot a little bit more, or do you want to talk about mushrooms?
Uh, one quick question, just in regards to when you did that shotgun. I think that's what that's referred to as.
Sure. I don't know.
Could you have also potentially picked up some of that person's energy from them taking that in, and could you have potentially picked up some spirit that was in him that may not have been favorable?
I mean, oh, interesting. I'm feeling like a little like gag reflexy. Maybe, I don't know. Interesting. Maybe. Also, remember, I'm only like 22. Yeah, I'm 22 and a half in that story. I am young and making very bad choices. And part of being young and making very bad choices back in the day, there was no flirtation with this person at all. But in general, this is going to sound probably too blunt, but just take it very literally. I would let people touch me that now I would be like, they do not get to touch me. Like, I don't even really go to doctors because I'm like, I don't really want like a person touching me. And I'm not anti-touch. I'm just anti like, I don't think that any old person should get to touch me. So
I
for
agree.
sure, yeah, for sure, like me now would have never. Um, yeah, but me back then, not very judicious, didn't have like any awareness around that, or not the same level of self respect either. But yeah, maybe he had a weird energy. I think also, just it was guys. I'm gonna drop an f bomb for a sec because it's a technical term. It was a fuck ton of pot as well. So it could have just been it was like a crazy amount of alcohol combined with a crazy amount of pot. And even if this guy was an angel on earth, and maybe he was an angel on earth, and he was like, "You're never gonna make this mistake again because we're gonna make it so gnarly."
That's
You know?
possible too.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah. So, and then I should also say this: somebody who I don't want to say because this is her information, not mine. Somebody who is a very close relative of mine. I remember when I was younger, she said to me that every time that she was trying to do some like dare anti-drug campaign, which by the way was very effective on me. I don't really like drugs. I'll just try them to see what the experience. Some of them, there's some that like, no way, I would not try them. But some of them I will try because people say there are medicinal qualities, right? And I remember her saying that every time that she had marijuana, that she didn't like it. And I remember as a teenager thinking like, how many times did you try this thing and you didn't like? Why do you keep trying this thing you don't like? But here I am. I've tried pot multiple times in a variety of ways, have disliked it every time. And what's funny is I'm such a nerd and like productivity that I'm trying pot for reasons that other people would go like nerd alert. I heard that a certain type of pot, I feel like it's there are two kinds. One's an upper and one's a downer. Whichever one is the upper. I heard that that could help me with studying and being more productive. And I had like half of one. And I was like, I just feel out of it and tired. And so like, oh, that was an edible. That was an edible. And then I had a vape pen. Again, I can't inhale to save my life. But even with that tiny little bit that made it in me, I didn't like. And then another person who loves probably too much pot offered me some. And I was like, well, okay, if he likes it so much, maybe this is different than the experiences that I've had. And I barely had any. And again, like just really, really do not like it. And he was like, you're exaggerating. Like there's no way that that small amount that you just did has had to. I couldn't really stand up straight. It's just, I think I'm not supposed to have substances, to be honest. So yeah, I just
That's
think I'm not supposed to. So I don't
that's what
process
it sounds
alcohol.
like.
Yeah, yeah. I'm high on life, man, and I am. I like living. Like life's great, so I don't really need. I don't. I also I don't like feeling out of sorts. I don't. I like me. Like it's been a long road to get to like me, to get to love me, and so whenever I have something that feels like it makes me feel off, like it doesn't feel like me anymore in like the truest form, it feels like a downgrade. Like I don't like it. LSD, ugh, that one, that one really made me feel like I was losing so many parts of myself that I value. Like I know a lot of people like it. They feel like they're having a breakthrough because all of these things start to fall away for them. I'm like, yeah, but I worked really hard to build those things up. I don't want to lose those things. And so it's very disconcerting where like parts of you go away, but I'm like, I like myself. I don't want a part of me to go
Was
away.
that like a death?
No, it's just it's kind of
Well,
confusing where it just no, there's nothing feels very good about it. Like and
it's,
again, other people really enjoy it. So
it,
this but my experience was like it just felt confusing.
I mean, LSD and uh, marijuana is the only thing that I've used. The whole concept of LSD, and especially within a significant portion of the black community, it's just something that we just didn't touch. But I've heard of stories of people using LSD and completely losing themselves ultimately are just having something come back on them later. But I've also heard stories
Wait, when you
of,
say losing themselves, do you mean in a good way or a bad way?
as in, it's something that affects them for the rest of their lives in a bad way.
Oh. Oh my God. Really?
Yeah, I've heard stories of things of that type, but I've also heard stories of people saying, and I commonly hear this with psilocybin, which I believe is typical, but with LSD, I've heard stories of basically going through your death and then coming back with everything open and your connection to source being much stronger with your gifts and everything. And I understand that's kind of what happens with psilocybin, but I find it odd because from my understanding of LSD is completely synthetic, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I really don't like it. And I would say this is another reason I prefer hypnosis to the drugs. It's such a crapshoot when it comes to the drugs. Like what Aaron just said
So,
sounded amazing for one of the sentences and sounded terrifying for another one of the sentences. And it's the same drug. And it's one of those things where you don't know until you try. Well, what you find out is really, really bad? And I'm not a scared story type person. Like I don't like to fear monger. That's not my thing. But I'm just saying, like, guys, you have hypnosis. Like, you don't need to try these other things. And I think that everybody do what you want, but you don't need it. Like, if you think that you need it, I would say just have a hypnosis session where you say to your team, your soul, hey, I've heard that there are these benefits to this type of plant medicine. And I'd really like to be able to experience those benefits with it being us. Like, let it be us. And then if you like that experience, then you can say, like, hey, let's do a round two. Or if you want to tweak that experience, hey, let's do it this way and then modify it and shift it over here. And you start to have a really beautiful dialogue and conversation with the universe instead of going like, okay, I hope this works out well for me. Off we go. And it might be amazing. And then here's the other thing that I think is a little bit dangerous about these substances. Let's say it is an incredible experience. Well, what happens if you really, really, really want to experience it again and you can't? Because with hypnosis, you can experience it again. But with drugs, what if you can't? Like, what if that shaman leaves town? What if that, you know what I mean? What if it's like so super expensive that it's really hard to put in you know what I mean? Like, it just feels like if you're going to have an amazing experience, that you would want to have that amazing experience with something that is empowering to you instead of potentially disempowering to you. And then another pro for hypnosis is maybe somebody's like, Courtney, love you, hear you. It's all making sense. I still want to try this drug anyway. I still strongly, strongly, strongly recommend, and this will be the frog combo story. I strongly recommend that you have hypnosis sessions or just one session, whatever's better for you, but have hypnosis sessions in preparation for these plant medicines, these different substances, because you will get a lot more out of the plant medicine, and I think you'll have a much smoother experience. My ayahuasca, I have a funny story where I did ayahuasca on a Friday and a hero dose of mushrooms on a Sunday, 2 days later. And I had the worst experience that somebody would expect, where you would think I was leaving Hawaii. That's why everything was like jam packed into one weekend, because I had an opportunity, and they just like, they fell on the same weekend. And based on stories, you would expect the psilocybin to be the chill, peace, love, and happiness. And you would expect the ayahuasca to be the like, hold on tight, like everybody, you know, hopefully you survive this. And the ayahuasca was really, really nice to me. And the mushrooms were mean. The mushrooms like yelled at me for 4 hours, basically. The mushrooms had been nice to me only about a month or two earlier. Same farmer, same type, slightly larger dose, but I was in a different place in my life. And I think that the mushrooms were like, Courtney, what are you doing? And just yelled at me
yep.
for 4 hours.
And so that sounds like the plants were probably already telling, the plant medicine was saying, no, don't do this. And you still did it. and because you didn't listen to what you were being told, you basically suffered being yelled at for all that time.
I
And the
never
thing
asked
is,
if they wanted me to do it, so I don't even know. I don't even know. I
but
never thought to ask them.
but even whether you ask or not, if you don't need it and shouldn't be taking it, the plant's going to let you know. It's the issue of if you're listening or not. Because even with the shaman, a lot of times what happens with the shaman, a shaman is asking and confirming this is what you need and
Mm-hmm.
this is what you don't need to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a shaman just throwing random things at you, you got a problem. So
Yeah.
that's the thing. It sounds like you shouldn't have been taking. Well, I mean, based on the progression, you definitely shouldn't have been taking it. But it sounds like you were being told, "No, Courtney, do not do this,"
It's a really
and
interesting
you
point.
didn't
Oh, go
listen.
ahead. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
And
then the interesting point too is that there was a shaman involved in the ayahuasca one, and there was not a shaman in the mushrooms hero dose. It was more just following directions again, like a doctor, where you're like, okay, you do this, and then these are the results. And but yeah, there was a shaman involved in the ayahuasca, and he even said to me, he was like, hey, you might not want to hear this, but I'm going to low dose you, and if you find that you want more, then just come back up and tell me that you would like more. And I was like, okay. And what was really interesting about the ayahuasca experience is I was kind of far in line, like I was maybe number 10 in line. And it's not that you stood in line to wait, you had your bed that you were lying in, and then they would just like tap you and have you come up. And then so I was lying there for a while in silence while other people were going first. I would say for at least 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. And and I did not know what to expect regarding the ayahuasca and what typical experiences would be, as related especially to the DMT component of it. And I before I ingested it, while I was lying there waiting, I started to get the grid lines. And apparently, grid lines can be one of those things you experience on. I was like, oh, I got that totally sober, actually. And then when I ingested the low dose, it was so delightful and enjoyable. I was having to stifle giggles because I knew everybody around me was suffering. You know, there was crying, there was puking, and I'm over here like having the time of not like it, not in a stupid, trivial, lighthearted way, but just in a like everything is so nice and so happy. And I very rarely have auditory experiences, and I had one in that, and I heard "We love you." I was like, oh, "Thanks." That's really nice. Thanks. And so it was just like this really, really nice, pleasant. They were saying a lot of nice things. They were telling me about why I was moving to Washington from Hawaii because I was going to be moving in about 2.5 weeks, which was a really big deal for me. So I got a lot of really helpful information that I still think about to this day. And that was almost exactly 2 years, a little bit more than 2 years ago.
that's
Yeah. And
amazing.
2 days later, the mushrooms yelled at me. So,
And
but the same dose and the same mushrooms. I was doing this with two of my friends. Um, one of my friends, he prepared a lot and he really guarded his experience in a nice way. He put on noise canceling headphones and had really nice classical music playing in the background. He got really comfortable, an eye mask, and so he did a really good job of protecting his experience. Again, lack of preparation on my part. Didn't even think about doing something like that. Um, and could just like fully hear and vibe off of what the other two were experiencing, which were very, very contrasting from each other. And so I'm getting yelled at and I'm like taken in, like one of them having a pretty rough time. Love her to pieces, which also makes it more impactful for my emotions because I care about her so much. Um, and I'm aware that the other one is having like the most beautiful experience. Like, so it's just a lot. And then you hear a dose. And so again, it goes on for an extended period of time, which can be really, really uncomfortable. I want to make sure we're almost an hour in again. Time with you very much flies. I want to make sure that we talk about, I feel like we've everybody understands alcohol. I would just say no bueno.
yeah.
Like I
Let's,
would, In general, I would just say if people had a yes or no out of me on alcohol, I would just say no. Like I would say, don't do it. And with pot, I would follow Aaron's directions about cleansing it, etc. And if you're like me, I would just say, don't do it. And then when it comes to mushrooms, I would say, listen to what Aaron said, do a lot of research and preparation, do what my friend did, and be very protective of your experience. And then also make sure that you do what Aaron said and you ask the plant if it wants to. It's like communing, right? Like you're in a relationship with that plant for however long that takes. And so, yeah, to have a conversation prior to make sure that you are ready and will have your best experience. Man, combo we got to talk about. Ayahuasca, I think that I talked about. I did not have any version of purging. And another really cool thing that happened, again, it was just super, super happy and pleasant. And I did, you know how you said, like, come back if you want more. And as soon as I started having my experience, I was like, hell if I am tinkering with this. Like, this is one of the best times I've ever had. Like, this is really enjoyable. So yeah, I didn't go back for any more. But another really neat thing that happened during that experience is we were outside. It was a covered, I'm forgetting the word right now. Man, what are those things whenever you're at a park and it's covered and people might set up tables and have like a covered picnic?
Or a tent.
No, sorry, everybody. Just imagine what I'm saying. It has a roof and it has pillars and it has a foundation and a floor, but everything else is like free airflow. Pavilion? I think that's the right word. Yeah.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah. So because even though it was covered, it was still very exposed to the elements in a nice way. You could see the ocean from there, and so this ocean breeze is coming in. You could also hear everything that was not everything, but you could hear plenty of what was happening. And this was after midnight, and for some reason, just during this one time, during the whole several hour journey, the shaman would go up to people individually and blow a little smoke into like a little, some of the feather stuff that shamans do. And as soon as he got to me, this is the only time the whole night that this happened, fireworks went off. Like for real fireworks. Boom, 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 boom. Like in a really nice, like 10-second celebratory way. Like right after he got to me and was doing me. And then the fireworks were done. And the guy, I was like, I'm pretty sure that was real and not a hallucination. Yeah. And so it was, for me, it felt very validating about the very positive, celebratory, good mood experience that I was having while like all of this like purging, etc., was happening for the others. I was also the only one that showed up in a really upbeat, optimistic mood. I was the only one who had never done it before, and everybody else had done it before, and they looked scared. Honestly, they looked very pensive. And I was thinking, like, why are you guys back? Like, if this is the mood that you're in, are you
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to
sure?
me.
It was super weird.
That doesn't make sense.
It was super weird. It was uncomfortable.
If it puts you in that mode, and this is coming from the perspective of someone that hasn't done any of these things, and someone that used to think it was crazy to do some of these things, who at this point, these are things that I am willing to try if I get the okay to try them, hypothetically, of course.
Yes.
But
yes.
if you're going to do something that puts you in that type of state before using it, what's the draw for you to go back and do it again? Are you going back to do it again to say maybe it's going to be better this time? That doesn't make sense to me.
I can't speak for all of them or any of them, of course. My theory, and this goes back to, I really want people to do things that are empowering as opposed to disempowering for them. My theory is that there are a lot of people who give away their power. And what I mean by that is that they don't yet believe in themselves that they have the ability to heal themselves, to guide themselves, to, you know what I mean? And I completely understand. I was in that position for a very long time as well. I, post hypnosis, have still fallen victim to those types of thinking where I think, oh, well, I've had all this healing and I have all these abilities and I've had all these great experiences, but I've heard this, and this about ayahuasca. And so even in my own version of it, I'm still disempowering myself, where there's a part of me that thinks I'm going to have a deeper, richer, more meaningful, impactful experience with this plant medicine, even though I know better. And I'm not saying that I think that it is bad or you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying, like, I know better. I know, more goosebumps, that it's Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. Like, you've always had the power within you. And I still am like, maybe this one will, kick those final little hurdles that I have. They have never kicked any of the hurdles. Hypnosis has always been the thing that has kicked a hurdle. Like, the thing that's actually changed my life has always been hypnosis. These other things have been interesting experiences. We're going to get to the combo. I keep mispronouncing it. The combo now. That was a confidence builder exercise. I should probably think about this more. Yeah, I'm probably in the right stage of my life that I need to revisit this very deeply. So the combo experience, again, that is a poisonous. Do you still have like maybe 10 more minutes, Aaron?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, all right.
The combo is a little tiny dot. That's a little tiny dot that they put on your skin, right?
Ooh, thank you for mentioning that. I was about to forget that detail. Yes, it is that one. Okay, so I'm in Hawaii for this one, and
one dot.
No.
How many?
I have to look at the scars on my arms, but hold on.
Wait, you still have scars from that?
Yeah. It was only 2 years ago. And they're not like the red, pink, purple scars. They're like, if I tan, they leave white dots.
Okay. I wasn't aware of that.
I scar pretty easily, though. I don't know the other people's scars much as I do, but I've got sleeves on, so I can't really look at it right now. But I'm pretty sure. I think I did. Oh, man, I think I did 3, which is insane. I didn't know that because I didn't research it. I didn't prepare at all. I think I did 3. I think I did 3. No, I can't answer. I know I did 3 for the first one for sure. I did 3.
Was that a shaman that you had for that one, or was that just someone that administered?
It's not what you would think of as a stereotypical shaman. Like an older indigenous person. It was a younger, like really cute white girl, but she had trained with a shaman, and she's
administering. She's administering because you have self-guided, someone administering, and a shaman. Usually, someone administering either has read a book, or trained under a shaman, or trained in a class. A shaman's done everything as a shaman.
Yeah, she's done way more than read a book. Like, she's actually done, like, she did all the ceremonial stuff. And I might be being kind of racist right now, where I'm like maybe giving her less credit than she deserves because she's a cute young white girl. Maybe she's got a better title than administrator. I don't know. But she knew like all of the things. Like, she did all of the ceremonial things. She did a really good job preparing me because I had done no research at all whatsoever. And the only reason I even did it is because one of my hypnosis students, who also lived on Oahu at the time, she posted to Instagram what an incredible purging experience it was. And I was like, I could use some purging. Yeah. Oh, do you know anything about this medicine? Because it's crazy.
Well, I mean, you do a lot of purging mentally, but there's a lot of physical purging as well, isn't there?
So you do know. Okay. Let's not spoil it.
A whole lot of purging.
Yeah.
Don't you have a bucket with you for that?
Are you already aware of this, or are you over there Googling it?
no, I've researched some of these things, and I've heard about some of the things. So I know some people wear Depends to do some of these things as well.
By the way, I'm seeing the comments come in. Valerie, I'm gonna definitely read your comments out loud in just a second. And then I saw that Guillermo just logged on and he said, "I miss hearing your voice, Courtney." Same Guillermo. I'm just thinking about Guillermo and his cool sunglasses. He gets what that means. So yeah, I love these two. They're so great. Okay. All right. So the combo, the frog venom medicine. I haven't done a lick of research. I only know that one of my students in Hawaii has enjoyed her experience. That's enough for me to say, like, all right, I want to try it. And I drive up to the North Shore and I'm sitting there. And again, this cute white girl, shaman, she is going through all of this information with me. But when I say I didn't do any research, I really mean it. Nothing. And she's like, "Hey, do you want to do in text beforehand, she was like, "Do you want to do one or do you want to do the 3-pack?" And I'm so extreme. I was like, 3-pack. Like, let's do that, right? And so and then I asked her a question. I can't even remember what it was, and she was like, "Oh, don't worry, you don't have to be nervous." And I was like, "I'm not nervous." And that should have been my first clue. Like, why would I be nervous, right? And so then I get up there and she's telling me about the experience and she was like, "Hey, and so we have this bucket here so that if you throw up, then you got it right next to you." And this is like my first time where I'm like, why would I be throwing up? Right. And then she hits me with, "And if you do feel that you need to go to the bathroom, I'm just going to ask you to please, the bathroom's right there. If you could just crawl." It's like, why would I need to crawl? Like, isn't this supposed to be 20 minutes? Why would I need to go to the bathroom? Right. And so I was like, why would I need to go to the bathroom? And she's like, "Oh, well, you might need to purge. Sometimes people purge this way, sometimes they purge that way." And I was like, "Do you mean diarrhea?" She was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "And some people have to," I was like, "There's not even a door. They just crawl so they're not pooping their pants in front of you to go take a poop with this, like, no door. There's just a piece of fabric hanging there." And I'm like, what did I sign up for? What is this? And I am just self-soothing. Hypnosis really comes in. Like, hypnosis comes in handy because I don't want to say to her, "I am terrified right now. I didn't research any of this. I'm just trying to act really cool and calm." Like, everything I'm expressing to you right now, I was stuffing it all inside. I was like, "Oh, why would you need to go to the bathroom?" Meanwhile, I'm like, "Why would you need to go to the bathroom?" Yeah, so she's telling me, I'm like, "Oh, okay." And the inside, I'm like, I have made a bad choice. I should not be here right now. And so she tells me all of this. I still am so delusionally confident that even though she's telling me this insane story, she was like, "And you can go up to 20 minutes. And if you want to go longer, you can. But if you also are too uncomfortable and you want to bail early, all you have to do is say so. And I take the venom that I've stuck in your arm, I take the venom out and you'll start to feel better." I'm like, okay. In my head, I'm like, I'm definitely going longer than 20 minutes. I'm cool as ice. I'm Courtney Starkey. I do soul empowering hypnosis. This is going to be great. Like, the cockiness is just 11 out of 10. And even though she told me I might just shit my pants in front of her, and if I do so, crawl. Oh, and then the reason that you crawl is because some people are so poisoned, because that's what this is. It's poison. Some people are so poisoned that their body, the way to react to it is it passes out. Like, your body just goes, "I don't know what this is and I don't want to experience it," and just passes out. Okay. And so she's like, "If you need to go to the bathroom, please crawl because you might pass out on your way if you're standing up." I'm like, again, playing it cool in my head. I'm like, great. Or playing it cool out to her, losing it a little bit in my head, but also still delusionally confident where I'm like, I'm going to go. I decided I was going to go 22 minutes. Yeah. I was like, I'm going to make the full 20 and I'm going to go 22 minutes. Okay. So then she was like, "And what we'll do is we'll eventually ask your team what number you want to experience of the dots," right? And it could, and here's the thing, I didn't even know what the options were. And I just hear them go 3, right? And so she keeps talking a little bit and she was like, so usually people their first time, they want to do 1 dot, maybe maximum 2 dots. And I was like, and she goes, so go ahead and tell your team or ask your team now what they want you to do. And I was like, I heard him say 3 a minute ago. Am I able to do 3? And she goes, you can. Like, okay, let's do 3. It was really clear. And so this is the part of the story that I love so much. My team years earlier had said to me, Courtney, you're really good at doing the hard things. Like we'll ask you to do something. I started a PhD program. I moved to Washington. They were like, you're really, really good at doing the hard things. What we need you to realize is that you need to start perceiving these hard things as easy things. So let the hard things be easy. Okay. But then months pass, years pass. I don't know how long passed. They eventually modified that and they were like, okay, we want to modify the mantra. Don't even think of them as hard. We need you to start thinking of them as being easy. Let the easy things be easy. Approach life that way. Even if it looks hard on the surface, think of it as easy. Let it be easy. And so, again, years pass, and then this lady is telling me I might shit my pants or pass out on the way to the bathroom. And she's like, do you want 1 or 2? And my team is like 3. And I'm like, what the fuck am I about to get myself into? Again, trying to play really cool on the surface. And I just hear them go, let the easy thing be easy. Let the easy thing be easy. Let the easy thing be easy. And they're just like piping this mantra into me. I'm like, okay. Now I wouldn't have had that if I didn't already have like a strong relationship. I probably wouldn't have it if I didn't already have a strong relationship with my team and all this history of hypnosis and being in communication with them. And so and the way, for those who aren't familiar with it, the way that it's administered is she lights the end of a stick on fire so that it's just a little bit hot or enough hot to then go, this is your skin, this is the stick. She pushes it very quickly and twists it. So she's removing that top layer of skin. That's where the scarring comes from. And it leaves these circular scars. Now, what she does as part of this whole ceremony is that your saliva is what you spit into this dried up frog venom. And then she mixes the frog venom with your saliva so that it becomes like this ball that's a little bit like gum, like chewing gum. And so these tiny little balls, she then administers and puts these little balls on your exposed skin. So that's how it gets into your system. So she's like, what do you want? Because some people will have 2 here and 1 here. And she was like, how do you want to do it? And so I asked them, and I was like, okay, just 3 across. And so she does that. And then she's starting the whole thing. And the way that I would experience this, I've never felt anything like it before. Like I've never felt anything like it before. I wouldn't say that I was in pain. I don't think that pain is the right word. It is this deepest level of discomfort. It is extremely unpleasant, but it's not pain, but it is extremely unpleasant. Like you would not ever want to do this. Like it feels very, very unpleasant to an extreme way. And so I make the same mistake that I made when I asked my roommate how long I had been high on that bad pot. And so Ms. Cool, I think I'm going to go 20 minutes or more because I'm super cool. And I say to her in this and I'm sweating, like I am just like sweating like crazy during this. And I have my eyes closed because I'm trying to like still vibe with my team, but I am suffering. And so with my eyes closed, I say to her, how many minutes has it been? And then she goes, it's been 7. And then I just go, Jesus. and then not too long after that, I start to feel pretty good. And in my head, I'm like, I'm sorry, guys, I'm going to swear. In my head, I'm like, I fucking knew it. I fucking knew I would rock this. I knew I'd be a champ. Like this is all in my head, right? The fear I kept in my head, the cockiness I kept in my head, but I'm starting to feel pretty good. Like I'm starting to stabilize. And I'm like, I've gotten over the hurdle. I'm a rock star. I'm feeling pretty good. All this is being kept on the inside. And then eventually, cocky me, I was like, so sorry. I am obnoxious. So I try to like calmly hide my arrogance. And so I try to calmly say to her, so is it normal for people to start to stabilize partway through this? Because I'm starting to feel okay. And she goes, oh, you passed out and I removed the mess. And so you're starting to feel better because I took it out of your arm. And I was like, oh, fuck. I didn't even know that I passed out. And then I like opened my eyes and I was like, I passed out. And she goes, nobody ever knows. Nobody ever knows. They only know when they're coming back. And it was strange too, because when I was normalizing, her hands were cupping my face. And I was like, oh, weird. Okay. But whatever. I guess it's just part of the thing. But she was trying to keep me like from falling over. So yeah. So I think that my team, the way that they managed all of my ignorance and arrogance, like not doing any research, but then also fully convincing myself that I was going to go 22 minutes. And they wanted to also say, let the easy thing be easy. So if you blend all that together, I think that my team gave me a really high number, 3, do 3 dots, so that I would have such an extreme reaction that instead of throwing up, instead of pooping myself or crawling to poop to the bathroom, I think that they preserve some of my dignity and just have me sweat a bunch and pass out instead. And so I think that because I was so high dosed, my body just like kind of went into shock and passed out. And then I was let off the hook. I didn't have to make it 20 minutes. I didn't have to make it 22 minutes. I had no choice. Like I was let off the hook. And so I think I did about 8 minutes by the time that I passed out. Now remember, I've prepaid for a 3-pack. So my ass has to go back and do it 2 more times. I was definitely, because we were talking about with the ayahuasca and people being nervous, and we were like, why would they go back and do it? Oh, I was definitely having some like bummed out thoughts on the drive up to do it the second time, where I was like, why am I doing this again? But I thought, okay, I paid for it and I'm not going to wean her out of it. And I'm not going to, ask for a refund, or like, it was my choice. I got to be a big girl. This is my bed. I got to lie in it. And so she was preparing the second batch, and in my head, I am forever optimistic / cocky, I guess.
How,
In my head, yeah.
How long after the first one was that?
Whatever she recommended, I can't remember. I feel like it was maybe a week. I don't think it was
A
super
week?
long.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
not certain.
Okay. Go ahead.
So yeah, so she's administering, and I asked for 3 again, and other arm for symmetry. And so in my cocky experience, I still think that I'm going to go 22 minutes. I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Right. And so we go through the whole thing. And oh, wait, can I tell you one really weird thing that happened after the first one? In addition to the mantra that they were sending me about let the easy thing be easy, they were also, for some reason, they sent me a bouquet of flowers. My team, they sent me a bouquet of flowers. And so flowers were also coming in. And then on the drive back from the North Shore back to where I lived in Hawaii, I did have to stop like partway through and go to the bathroom. But I was able to, just find a bathroom and go there. And this is so weird, and it's 100% true. When I went to the bathroom, what I expelled smelled like flowers. And I had forgotten that they had sent me the flowers. Of course, I was thinking about like all this other like, whoa, what the fuck stuff. I'd forgotten about the flowers. And then when I smelled that, I was like, oh, that's right. They sent me a bunch of flowers. I don't know how to explain that other than it's 100% true. It's super weird. So, okay. So now we're doing the second one. And it's funny. I don't have.
Did you get anything else spiritually out of that first experience, or was that everything that you actually got out of it? If you care to
Thank
share
you.
that.
Thank you for asking that. I think that I probably glossed over how important that mantra is to me. The let the easy thing be easy. And we're part 1 of 3 ways through them proving it. So I think that was the thing that I was supposed to get. Courtney, you're really good at doing the hard thing, but you got to let the hard thing be easy. Oh, Courtney, go deeper than that. It was never hard to begin with. Let the easy thing be easy. Like, that was a huge deal for me to get that, and something that I really think that I need to tap back into on a regular basis, because just like everybody else, it's easy for me to fall into, oh, this is hard. Oh, I don't know how to do this. Oh, and it's just as easy for me to fall into the trap of thinking something is more difficult than it needs to be. So have the second one. I'm blanking on a lot of the details for that one, other than I did make it 20 minutes. And at one point, she was feathering me and fanning me. I didn't really understand why. And so at the end of that one, I didn't make it 22. I was like, I don't want to do this for 2 extra minutes. Like, I'm pretty proud of myself for making it 20. I didn't throw up. I sweated, but not as much as the first time. And so my purge was basically just kind of a heavy sweat, and made it the full 20 minutes. And she was fanning me with feathers for some reason. I didn't really understand why. But then at the end, when I came back, she said to me, she was like, I was fanning with feathers because sometimes I try to help people through their journey, but it actually looked like you weren't suffering. Were you suffering? I was like, not really. And she was like, did the fanning help? And I go, it was kind of annoying. Like, that was actually like totally unnecessary. Like, it's just like, okay, no problem. I won't do it next time. I'm like, okay, that's good. And so then the third time, probably about a week later, and again, higher dose. You can't do a lower dose and then go 22 minutes and feel proud of yourself. You still have to do a higher dose. And so I'm still convinced I'm going to go 22. 22 is my favorite number. I'm convinced I'm going to go 22 minutes. And so I'm just there and I'm vibing. I'm like so like hard with them, and let the easy thing be easy. Let the easy thing be easy. Let the easy thing be easy. And it was so chill. I don't even think I broke a sweat. I was just sitting there chill for the 22 minutes. And then when we got to 20, she was like, it's been 22 minutes. I was like, let me do 2 more. And then she goes, okay. And then she removed it, and she goes, I don't even know what to say. Like, I've never seen anybody have that type of experience where it was just kind of a non-experience where you're just relaxed the whole time. I was like, yeah, it was pretty relaxing actually. And I told her about the let the easy thing be easy. I was like, I think they were trying to prove a point to me. Like, it's a terrifying thing what this experience could be like. I've never passed out my entire life. That's the only time I've ever passed out, ever. And so anybody in their right mind would be scared to do it again. But my team, I think, needed to prove that point to me. Is this objectively hard? Yes. Does it need to be hard for you? No. And that was really, really valuable. And I think all of us can do that, by the way. I think we all have the capacity for a let the easy thing be easy.
So there was nothing in experience number 2 and number 3. There really wasn't much additional that you gained spiritually.
I mean,
other than them making the point to you.
Correct, except for that point is super, super important to me. And I needed the 3-step journey to get really, really scared and go through like one of the harder things, maybe the hardest thing I've ever experienced. I don't know. Like, it was really, really, when I use the word uncomfortable and unpleasant, it just doesn't do it the justice. You're being poisoned. You're poisoned to the point where your body passes out. That's extreme. So it was that extreme. And then only 2 sessions later, cool as a cucumber, not even breaking a sweat, 22 minutes, just being as chill as I knew I could be. Like, that might not sound like much. It's a huge journey. It's a huge character arc for me to experience, and a huge point that they had actually been working on me for years. Like, that first message that I got, Courtney, you're good at doing the hard things, was years earlier. So they've been trying to get this message through to me for a long time, and I just needed like a sassy little frog to be able to like finally get it in there. If you can make poisoning easy, you can make learning how to send a group email easy. I mean, there are things I used to be so scared of where I was like, I don't understand technology. You handled poison. You can figure out this group email. So yeah, it was invaluable. It was really, really good. Do you want to talk about we haven't really talked about MDMA. And we haven't really talked about Adderall or DMT. I'm going to talk about Adderall super quick because there's nothing to it really. I'm only mentioning just because technically it's a drug. It didn't have any effect on me. I like to joke that my ADHD is so bad that the Adderall got in my system, looked at my brain, was like, there's nothing we can do here. And then I also like to joke that I prefer the drug that always works for my ADHD, which is procrastination. Because if I just like force myself into having only 10 minutes to do it, oh my God, I can suddenly focus. So yeah. And then when it comes to DMT, the pen, it was really, again, I'm not good at inhaling, so I'm not the best resource for information about anything that has to do with inhaling. I was able to get enough in to see some of the fractals, the geometric shapes. I didn't really get any spiritual insights from the pen. When I did DMT, the shamanic version, where you're actually getting it from the toad, again, you have to inhale it. So I probably low dosed myself by accident. But the really cool experience that was happening in that one is I didn't realize that there was this one yellow flower on the other side. This is outside, on the other side of the fire where I was sitting. But when the DMT kicked in, everything fell away, including the stem of the flower. But that one yellow flower just remained. Like it was the one point of focus, like the thing that still connected me to the earth. And I didn't really have much of a spiritual experience. And that's the God particle or God molecule or whatever it is. I find hypnosis to be far more effective than what I experienced. Was that yellow flower really great and interesting and cool and beautiful? Yes. Is hypnosis a lot more powerful? As far as I can tell, yes. And then the person that I did it with, not the shaman, but the person that I did this in Texas, the person who traveled to Texas with me to experience it as well, he's very well versed in inhaling. So opposite experience. I accidentally low dosed myself, and I think he accidentally high dosed himself, and he just ended up like taking a 15-minute nap. We paid hundreds of dollars for me to see a flower and for him to take a nap. Just do hypnosis, guys.
A lot cheaper.
It is a lot cheaper, and you don't have to fly to Texas, and you know what I mean? But again, there are plenty of people who will sincerely and accurately swear by that medicine is the best thing that's out there. So it's just dependent on who you are and what your experience is meant to be. And then the final thing that I'll talk about, I really want to be careful when I talk about this because my experience with it was so positive, but I have seen with my own two eyes a really not good experience for someone else. And I have heard of not one, but two different people having this be their first drug that they have ever, and they go deep into drug addiction. So it was super chill, enjoyable experience for me. It kickstarted two people's longstanding, very detrimental to their lives, drug addictions with others. So this was their gateway drug, essentially. And that one is MDMA, the one that people call Molly sometimes. You know how I was saying with LSD that it felt like I was losing some really important parts of myself that I had worked very hard to cultivate, and I was not interested in losing them. I want those things. I have worked hard on these things. With Molly, it felt very much like me being me. Like it felt like how I actually normally am. So in my past, I wasn't particularly loving or affectionate. I am really, really like the healed version of me loves like hugs and compliments and love. You know, I said my drugs of choice right now are caffeine and oxytocin. I'm not joking. Like I love love. And when I take MDMA, it just feels like, oh my God, like this is me, but like just amped up a little bit more. And then it feels like other people who take it, I'm like, oh, they're finally on my page. Like I feel like other people finally are experiencing what my experience of life is like. And I'm like, oh, like this person is huggy and smiley and happy and loving and verbose with like kind words now. And I'm like, like, people are finally acting the way that I feel and act. And so for me, it feels like very celebratory where I'm like, thank God I'm not alone in this world, like thinking that hugs and compliments are the way to go. And, you can express kindness and gratitude and affection and not feel worried that you seem like you're a nerd, not be worried you're going to get rejected, not be worried that you're vulnerable. Like, I like saying nice things. I don't give a shit if I get rejected. I genuinely like the action of saying the nice things. I get a lot out of that. And so for me, it just felt like more of me. And finally, other people were acting more like me, which I wish they would. So that was really cool. I never need to do it again. I did do it a couple more times, but I never need to do it again. It's not something that I feel like I need in my life. I am it. I don't need it. And that was my experience. Then I'll talk about like the thing that I saw with my own two eyes. I saw somebody mix it with alcohol, and he went straight into like hallucinations. Like he was talking to people that weren't there. He worked on a house project with his roommate. This is all in his head. He played around a pool with his coworker. Like I watched this person have full-on hallucinations for like a few hours. And I was like, this was not like my experience at all. Yeah. So that's not good. And then the other very cautionary tale, I'm not exaggerating at all about any of this. I know a person who definitely is struggling with addiction, and which is really rare for me. It's actually the only person I know who's struggling with addiction. I've been very blessed to be in a bubble where this is not something that I've ever had to deal with, or people that I know have ever had to deal with this one exception. And this one exception struggles with addiction. And the way that started for him was he had Molly. And he grew up in a pretty challenging environment, so a rougher childhood, and has a lot of anxiety and depression as a result of that. And he told me that when he had that Molly for the first time, that it, for him, was the first time that I ever felt happy in his entire life. Like he felt like he finally understood the emotion of happiness. And so you could imagine that and he's in his early 20s at this point. So this is, a fair amount of years of this person not ever really feeling happiness until they ingest this drug. So for him, it's totally understandable when you understand this background story and the effect that it had on him. For him, it became like chasing after that feeling again. And when you're chasing and like kind of desperately need, and it's totally understandable. Like, can you imagine a life without feeling happy, and then you finally get to feel it, and then it's gone again because that drug has left your system? What are you going to do, right? You try to find more drugs. Okay, well, maybe this will make me feel happy again. Well, if that made me feel happy, maybe this other one will make me feel happy. And because this person is prone to addiction and is prone to depression, these drugs do, how I said that whenever I do drugs, it's a downgrade because I'm already feeling pretty good. Just natural me is already feeling pretty good. Drugs downgrade that. For him, he's already feeling kind of bad. And so drugs, alcohol, like it makes him feel better. And so, yeah, and that all started with that one drug. And maybe if it had been a more like bleh drug, maybe it wouldn't have kickstarted addiction for him, but it did for him. And I've actually independently from someone else, she mentioned that somebody that she cares about, the exact same thing happened for him, where it's, I don't remember how old he was. I feel like he was older teens, early 20s. So similar stage in life. And for whatever reason, Molly, same thing. This is his first drug. And now he's, an adult, and he struggled, and maybe still struggles. I actually don't know how the story turns out for this guy because I'm not close with him. So I don't know if he's okay now, but at least for an extended period of time, struggled with drug addiction. So I feel very nervous about ever recommending any sort of drug to anybody, because not in a million years, based on my experience, not in a million years would I have guessed that that would have a negative effect on people. But it makes perfect sense that if it's the only thing that has ever made you feel happy, that you would immediately start to do whatever you can to feel that again. And you probably never will, because if what we hear about that first high being the best high and it's never going to be that good again, oh my God. Like, can you imagine? Like, knowing that you're never going to feel that good again, and you might never feel happy again if you don't keep trying to feel. So, yeah, it's a lot.
That is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a lot. And I also think a lot of people just have that propensity of that upbringing, but also genetically, along with the upbringing, creates that perfect or that combination that makes them more susceptible to addiction, which is it's really sad.
Yeah, it is. It is interesting, the nature versus nurture. So the person I was speaking about, who I know, um, yeah. It seems like all there's several siblings in that family. It seems like all of them have struggled with some version of addiction at some point. Some worse than others. So the nature and nurture is there for all those kids. And then the other one that I was talking about, where it's a friend of a friend. There are 3 kids in that family, and 2 of them totally fine, and one of them addiction. Yeah, it's just it. I again, Dare really worked on me, and so I'm like, guys, I just don't think it's worth it. Like, just do hypnosis. Go for a walk in nature. Do something natural, but don't get your happiness from ingesting something, and that's including sugar. Like, I made that joke about my first drug when I was a kid, but I'm not really joking. Like, I think that sugar is a drug.
It,
Um,
it is, and your body's not really meant to take sugar in.
yeah,
Sugar doesn't exist in nature in
yeah,
that form.
yeah. The older I get, the wiser I get. I really feel like if we just pay attention to evolution, um, and what our ancestors thrived on for such a long period of time, that we're falling into a lot of depression, anxiety, and disconnection at this point. A lot of people in our version of society, and I really think that a lot of people need to get out in the sunshine. I think a lot of people need to eat fresh fruits and vegetables. And I'm being dead serious. Like, I giggled, but I'm being dead serious.
True.
Yeah. So, and the more that I look into it, the more that my gut feelings on things. Like, I remember I used to say, I would still say, I just haven't said it for a long time, but I used to say, I really like eating fresh fruits and vegetables because it feels like I'm eating sunshine energy. Again, the more that like I look into it, I eventually realized, like, oh, that's actually a real thing. And why? Because we evolved. Our ancestors were out in the sun. Like, for whatever reason, there's something about sunshine that I just always inherit. Not for whatever reason. I haven't said a crazy thing in a while. The type of angel that I am is a sun angel. So I think that's why I naturally understand the sun stuff so well. And I have this weird story from when I was a teenager, where when I would get grounded and I would have things taken away from me, one of the things that I would be grounded from was going outside. That's really strange. And both of my parents would watch me like a hawk and not let me spend time in the sun. And it was one of those weird versions of abuse where a lot of abusive parents abuse their kids under the guise, and I think that they would pass a lie detector test. I think they believe that what they're doing is protecting the kid, but it's really just abusive. Like, overprotection is a weird form of abuse, and so they wouldn't let me go out in the sun because they both had cancerous melanomas on their skin. They both had skin cancer, and so I wasn't allowed to go out in the sun. And I was so pale that people would make fun of me. People, and it, whatever. It was kind of funny. So it didn't bother me. But that's how pale I was. I was so pale that one little kid asked me one time, why I had tights on under my pants. Cause like, I don't know, I bent over and like maybe my ankle was a little bit exposed. And he was like, why do you have tights on under your pants? I was like, that's my skin. Those are not tights. so what I would do, because my parents had no lives and were always at the house, if they ever left the house on a sunny day, I would immediately go right onto the sunshine, just like put down a towel and just like lie there for as long as I could. Because there was something in me that knew like you need this, you need this, you need this, you need this. Like get your ass outside and just soak this in while you had the handful of minutes to be able to do this. And then fast forward to how I am now as an adult, desperately wanted to move back to Hawaii, would always, always go on 1 or 2 beach walks every single day. So it's constantly out there. I've always known not to wear sunscreen, not in a, people are finding out more and more that sunscreen is actually like really bad for you in a variety of ways. There was nothing that was ringing the alarm bells in terms of that. It was just that I thought that it felt gross. So I was just protected because I was like, this feels kind of gross. And then the more I learned about it, I was like, oh, why don't I just like base tan? Like that is sunscreen if I just get a base tan. So just be smart and methodical about building up your base tan. And then you have your own sunscreen. Another thing that I intuitively understood is when I moved to California during that time, that pot incident time, when I moved to California, it's only out there for like 10 months. I bought a pair of sunglasses because I was like, this is California and I need to be cool and I'm going to have sunglasses. I never had sunglasses growing up. And so I had a pair of sunglasses. I went out, I wore them for one part of one day. I probably had them on for less than half an hour. I was like, I am never wearing these things again. But again, not because I intuitively understood the connection to the sun. I felt like I was losing a big part of my expression. I feel like I'm so expressive with my eyes in particular that like as I was communicating with people, I was like, I really feel like a big, huge part of me is being blocked right now. And I don't like that. And so never wore the sunglasses again. And then lo and behold, they're finding out that people who wear sunglasses are more prone to getting sunburns. And there's something about like your body, not like your body, we did not evolve to wear sunglasses. That is not what our ancestors were doing. Why are we doing it? We did not evolve to wear sunscreen. Our ancestors didn't do that. Why are we doing that? So it's just like, it feels like there's this big disconnect where we're inside all the time. We're eating processed food. When we go outside, everybody's squawking in our ears about like covering up from the sun. Guys, we didn't evolve to do that. Like think about this, feel about this, be about this. And so, yeah, that's
And
I don't know how I ended up talking about that, but yeah, get more sun.
well, but you're correct. Even the thing with the sunglasses, when you go out the house with sunglasses on, your body's being told by what's coming through visually. It's saying, okay, it's not sunny outside. It's evening time, or it's early morning before sunrise. So you're not taking that in, and your body's not responding appropriately. Your
Mm-hmm.
body is responding also to the sunlight by giving you the protection in the skin to keep you from getting sunburned because of the fact that your body is saying, okay, the sunlight's coming in, do what needs to be done to protect the skin. And if you think about it, some of the people that get the worst sunburn, it's that person that's laying on the beach with sunglasses on for a long period.
It's
It,
like the worst suntan line ever. Yeah.
it's horrible suntan line.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
horrible suntan line also.
Yeah.
So, yes, we're not living like it's meant to be or what the body is used to. So
Right.
I definitely agree.
Yeah, yeah. One more point that I want to, because when I learn new information, I like to pay it forward and share it, especially if it really makes sense to me. And another thing that I learned is I've been learning more about how not just important the sun is, but essential, like crucial, like life or death. Um, and as in, you'll extend your life if you're doing these things. And again, our ancestors did these things. Our body knows that this is something that's good for us. Apparently, windows, not great. So they changed the way that the structure of the rays, and so you're getting a, I don't know what word to use here. you're getting a different version of light touching you that's not what nature intended. Like no nature, no ancestor intended you to be getting sun through a glass box, right?
And
And
you
so
said no window, all windows change the makeup of sunlight.
yeah.
Oh, I never thought about that.
So yeah, I hadn't either. That one was one where my intuition did not, except I have a convertible. So anytime that it is nice enough, and when I say nice enough, I mean I am the crazy lady that will have on the puffy hood, scarf. Like I will have all of that on if it's just barely, and I get cold very easily. So I've got the seat heaters on. I've got the heat blasting. I'm bundled up. But if it's close, anywhere close to warm enough and it's a sunny day, the top goes down. I don't care. I'm putting the top down. And and so again, intuitively, I had no clue what I was doing, but that is the way to do it. If you're going to be in the car, you should have the windows down. If you can, open up the sunroof, moonroof. If you have a convertible, use it. But yeah, so now that I know better, whenever it's a nice day here, it's not just enough to open up the blinds and feel like you're getting sun. No, you need to open up the window as well, because then it's not having that, I want to say mutated, but I don't think that's the right word. But manipulated, again, probably not the right word, version of the sun touching you. And you know how I was saying earlier that I'm so much more judicious now about like who gets to touch my body. Like I don't go to doctors. Like I had to have a cyst removed one time, and thankfully I'm good friends with a surgeon who I adore, and I love his energy so much. I was like, well, thank God I know a surgeon who I actually like, because I'll allow him to touch me, right? And so, and I wasn't even scared. Like as he was doing the scalpel, like a little bit of me was scared, but then I thought like, no, like it's not about the scalpel touching you. Like he's holding the scalpel and he's wonderful. Like actually like, and he is, I don't want to say the best person that I've ever met, primarily because I don't want to hurt anybody else's feelings, but I think he's the best person I've ever met. Like I think he's the best person I've ever met. Like he's that top notch. And I know a lot of great people. So anybody who has their feelings hurt, it's not that you're not amazing. It's that he is just like, he is an earth angel if I have ever seen. Like he is, yeah, literally saving lives every day. And so whenever the scalpel was touching me and I started to feel a little twinge of fear, I was like, no, don't feel fear. Feel like his good energy. And I was like, and even these are like the things I have to say in my head to talk myself into feeling okay sometimes. I was like, and what if, Courtney, like you actually end up like, you know, things are contagious, right? What if you end up catching some of his good? Like you might catch some of his good right now. And then what's funny is he started to come to me in dreams after that. And he would tell me things like, I
Yeah.
need to be more disciplined. I haven't thought about that in forever. He's so right. Oh my God, he's still right. I still need to work on it. But yeah, he'll come and like pep talk me and be like, you need to be more disciplined. Like one time he came to me in a dream and he was like, pay attention to everybody that's successful here. He was like, do you see the common denominator? And I was like, yeah, they're more disciplined. He was like, yeah, you need to be more disciplined. I'm like, I know. So yeah, he comes to me. He's great.
That's
He
awesome.
never rests. So, okay. So, is there anything? Let me look at the chat. Okay. Valerie's on top of it. She knows. She says pot and alcohol, not, oh, you know what? I think this is a typo and it's the perfect typo. I think she meant to say pot and alcohol, not a good combo, but she wrote not a God combo. I think that might be the most accurate typo I've ever read. Valerie, I love you. It's not a God combo. And then she corrected it. She changed the typo in the next comment. And then she said, since I'm practicing hypnosis, I have, oh, yep. She's totally right. She said, since I'm practicing hypnosis, I have a low tolerance for any drugs, even sugar, which is my drug of choice. Yeah. There is something about whenever you start hypnosis that you become more sensitive, I think in a good way. Your intuition gets better. So you're more sensitive in terms of your clairs. You also become healthier, right? And so when if you're not healthy and something unhealthy gets into your system, whatever, you're already feeling like shit. You don't notice it. If you're healthy and something not good gets into your system, it is felt. Like you do feel like garbage. And so an unwitting person might go, oh no, when I do hypnosis, like this is making me more prone to feeling bad when I ate this food that never used to make me feel bad. Oh, it always made you feel bad. It's just that you felt like such utter shit all the time that you didn't even know that it made you feel bad because that was just like your, default status. So hypnosis will make you feel so good that you actually can start to tune into things that really are not good for you. They finally do feel bad and you can actually feel it. I'm dying. I'm dying. So Guillermo is still up. Oh my God. Okay. Guillermo is the only person who's allowed to wear sunglasses because now, Guillermo, you came on after I said that if somebody eats a burger, but it makes them happy versus somebody eats a salad and it makes them sad, that because that person is vibing so joyfully with that burger and that person is so sad and resentful of eating that salad, that I think they're actually going to have a healthier reaction to the burger than to the salad because of their being. Guillermo, you might be the one person on the planet that actually feels even better from wearing your cool sunglasses. Aaron, you got to see them. They're so great. And he would log on. He would come to our group meetings and he would log on. He would just have so yes, I always like to say there's an exception to every rule, and we have our sunglasses exception for sure. Oh my God. Okay. All right. So I definitely did not cover everything that I wanted to. Let me just look really quickly because we're close. I'm at like 99%. So let me just double check. I do think at some point soon we should talk about dopamine and we should talk about addiction. Like I said, I really, really like to pay it forward, and maybe that's what we should talk about next week. Because it's an easy, a natural segue, and if you guys do want me to talk about this, I would like to give you a little bit of really good homework, which is watch the Diary of a CEO podcast, where there's this nice lady who talks about dopamine. It's probably from really early 2025, but I guarantee that in the title it's going to mention dopamine. And the way that she looks is just like this sweet white lady who's maybe in her 50s. So you'll see her face, you'll recognize. I really regret that I don't remember her name because that 2 hours or so is one of the most impactful 2 hours ever. So I should be honoring her by remembering her name. Big whiff on my part. Even the guy who runs the podcast, he even has said that like more than any other episode, that's the one that he tells everybody to watch. And I'm gonna like pay it forward and say, yes, watch that episode because she makes a great point that even if you think that you're not prone to addiction, watch yourself because you don't know what's about to be invented that is the perfect thing for you to end up getting addicted. And so for anybody who judges those who have addiction, be careful because there, but for the grace of God, go I. Because everybody has something that is going to get them. Like at some point, I'll have to wean myself off of caffeine. I will never, I haven't been plugged in this entire time. I will never wean myself off of love or oxytocin. That's not happening. But yeah, caffeine, if I'm doing all this sunshine stuff, like inevitably, caffeine is probably really, really wrecking some of my efforts there in terms of like circadian rhythms and
Where do you get caffeine from?
it's pretty funny as far as like how health oriented I am and then what my answer is about to be. Okay, guys, you've made it almost 2 hours into this and you've earned my confession. It's sugar-free Red Bull. I really like it. Like not the flavor. The flavor is meh, but for me, it actually works. Like it has a very clean, non-jittery focus enhancer, energy enhancer, mood enhancer. Like if I wake up kind of groggy, and I'm one of those people, you know how some people get hangry, like they really need food, and if they don't have food, they get really mean spirited. Whatever. I don't need to eat. If I'm poorly rested, I can be a bitch. And I can be like, and I try to keep it to myself because I don't need other people to suffer, but I also don't want me to suffer. And sometimes if I wake up and I'm really tired and groggy, I have this feeling that kind of like everything just sort of sucks. Like it's just sort of that general like bleh feeling. And then when I have the Red Bull, caffeine, sugar-free caffeine, within a couple of minutes, I'm like, oh, what a great day. What are we going to do today? I have this project I haven't done. And like, I just feel like I'm back to being my normal cheery self. That's not good, that I need to have a substance to feel that way. And I also fully understand the logic of, well, Courtney, if you're having caffeine, guess what? You're ultimately disrupting, oh, your sleep. Oh, and then if your sleep is disrupted, how do you feel? Like a bitch and like you're depressed? Oh, well, maybe the solution isn't the caffeine that got you feeling that way in the first place. I understand. I understand. I will eventually quit. Let me wean. It's not even that much. It used to be pretty bad. Like I used to have like two 12 ounce cans. That's a lot. Now I don't have any more than one. And I usually have just part of one, but I still would like to get it down to zero.
But at least you're aware of it.
Yeah.
You're definitely aware of it. I actually have a concern for all of the kids that are drinking those things and what that's actually doing to them long term. But that's a discussion for another time.
Yeah. Well, okay. It is a discussion for another time, but I also want to say a couple sentences about it right now. I think that people need to also pay more attention to, I love Diary of a CEO. Dr. Amen, spelled like amen, he was on recently. And one thing that he was talking about that I hadn't really thought about is how all of these substances, whether it's pot or alcohol or, you know, whatever it is, all of these substances are particularly detrimental to a developing brain. Now, if you're like me, I hear the word developing brain and I think of a kid up until the age of 18, right? Like probably more like 14, 15. Because for me, I'm erroneously thinking about the developing like height of a body. Ridiculous. I should not be thinking that way, especially because I already know the prefrontal cortex is not fully developed until you're about 25 or 26. I already know that. And I still wasn't connecting that a developing brain is actually up until you're about the age of 26. So people think like, oh, not a big deal if I have some pot when I'm like 21. Oh, not a big deal if I have alcohol when I'm 21. Be careful. Your brain is still developing. I don't think you should really do it even after the age of 25, but for God's sakes, please do your future self a favor and don't have that stuff before you're 25. Your brain is absolutely still developing, even though you're a full on adult, which has probably been working full time, probably has a receding hairline. Your brain is still developing. Like, don't take that lightly. So, yeah. Anything else?
And I think the person is Dr. Anna Lemke. That
Yes.
sounds
Thank
familiar.
you. Thank you. And you're also segueing nicely back to, yeah, I think the next week. Aaron, if you want to, do you want to, have you watched that episode yet?
No, but I'm going to.
It's very good. How about if everybody who wants to watches that and then we'll be on the same page when we talk about dopamine and addiction. And there is this illustration that they put in there. Oh, by the way, if this is the first Diary of a CEO that you guys have ever watched, he's Steven, the guy who hosts it. He's very clever and he's always trying new things to see what works well for the audience and what doesn't. And unfortunately, he did something that didn't work very well for the audience and he got feedback and he learned his lesson. He won't do it again. But unfortunately for this episode, they did pipe in music where like if she's saying something that's kind of impactful, they'll put like a little, you know, quiet emotional music underneath it to try to amp up the emotions. What she's saying is already so powerful that the music just kind of like like detracts from it and just seems like this, like, why are you doing this? And so I apologize that you guys are going to have to deal with that. This is not a common thing for that podcast at all. And honestly, I hope that they learned their lesson well enough that maybe there's an edited version that doesn't have that. I don't know. But yeah, so this graphic that they put in there, which is extremely good, it makes a lot of sense. And I had never thought about this before or knew this before. What is happening with when you're getting a dopamine fix, whatever that is for you. So whether it's caffeine or alcohol or porn or shopping or all of these things that people end up getting addicted to, like people get addicted to very surprising things, right? Whatever it is that is your thing that gets all this dopamine going, there is a system in your brain. Think of it like the scales of justice, like scales, the balance. Whenever you are flooding yourself with that dopamine, these scales of balance that want to keep you in homeostasis in your brain will then, because you're feeling so good, the only way to balance that out is to make you feel bad. So if you're good up here, guess what you get to feel? Bad up here. And so this is where hangovers come from. This is where a lot of depression, like after you've had a really good time, your brain actually does that. And when we're talking about evolution, and that's another thing that I love about the host, Stephen Bartlett, he views things through that same lens. He always, like, I love it when people go, evolutionarily, why does this make sense? And then you can make so much sense of the world if you just start to view things through that lens. So he asked her that question. He was like, evolutionarily, like, why would your brain do that to you? And she gave a great answer. She mentioned that if you pretend that you're a hunter-gatherer, you're a caveman, you're a hunter-gatherer, whatever, back in those days, you can't be too happy and too complacent. You're going to die. If you're always feeling like a bit of want, a bit of dissatisfaction, that is going to motivate you to plant next year's crops. That's going to motivate you to go out on the hunt. Like there's a want, there's a need, there's a desire for more of something. That's really good when it comes to going out and seeking food. You can't just be a lazy beach bum, like super satisfied and content, and think that you're going to survive in caveman days. It's not working. So evolutionarily, that's why, because it helped you have that desire for actually needing more of a thing that you really did need, which is food. Nowadays, like almost everybody, not everybody, but almost everybody has access to way more food than they need. And again, because you're getting that high, and you can do that. You can abuse food. I abuse food sometimes where I overeat. That's definitely a thing that I have a tendency to do. I exercise a lot, so I still look, cute and trim, but I overeat. I just burn it off, right? How much time am I wasting? Wasting time eating, then wasting time. Actually, I don't think that exercising is a waste of time, but you understand what I'm saying. Like if I just ate moderation, I could get away with exercising a bit less, but I do think the exercise in itself is very, very, very good for people. So anyway, we all have our things. And if I overeat, yes, I feel good, but then I feel bad. And you can overeat several times per day. Like you can up, crash, and feel super weird and discombobulated the whole day because you're doing that over and over again. So one thing that was really interesting, I stopped having alcohol like at all about a month and a half ago. And because like I had very little and I had like a really bad reaction to it. And I was like, okay, like enough is enough. Like that, the amount that I had versus the reaction I had, like it doesn't even make any sense. Like enough. Like I don't even like this enough to have it anymore.
There's another thing which we're risking getting into another long discussion here, but ascension, the fact that we're growing and moving towards 7D, things like alcohol are creating a different response in a lot of people's bodies, and a lot of people are things that they're used to eating are things that aren't in alignment with them anymore. And there's going to be a lot of people that alcohol is not going to be in alignment at all.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That I'm really lucky you have this too. My finger's on the pulse of what spiritual people are experiencing just because of my job. And that's been going on for years. I'm really happy to report. And people say like, oh, what if it's just the person getting older and they're not processing alcohol that well? This is happening to people who are in their 30s. This is happening to people who are in their 70s. Like this is all happening around the same time for people who are in very, very different stages of life, if not different generations. So yeah, that 100% is definitely happening. I want to make sure that I say really quickly about the balance of the scales with the dopamine and the feeling good and then the feeling bad to balance it out to get the homeostasis, and why I mentioned not having alcohol. And like, go figure, as soon as I stopped having alcohol, who started exercising regularly again? Me. Who has the bandwidth now to, because alcohol for me doesn't just rob the time when I'm having it robs the next day as well. Maybe 2 days because of the headache. So I'm going to have some brain fog and I'm going to have some headache. And so I'm not losing an insignificant amount of time. I'm losing days usually where I'm not my best self. And so now that I'm back to being so much better because I'm not brain fogged, I'm not headachy, I'm not intoxicated. I'm not having to deal with any of that stuff. Even in moderation, all of that stuff would still happen to me. So go figure, I'm exercising more. Go figure, I'm learning more things about health. This is where like the sunshine thing is starting to come in. So I noticed that in those first couple of weeks where I was walking, getting fresh air, back into the rhythm and the routine of my exercise program, starting to feel good. You know what was interesting? I would notice that sometimes when I was feeling my best on these nature walks in the fresh air, the sun's out, I'm feeling really, really good. I would notice that I would have a craving for alcohol. And because of that lady and because of that graphic, I was like, oh, I think those are the gremlins. Like, I think I'm feeling so good about this exercise that there's a little part of me that's like, we know how we can make you feel like shit. And all you have to do is have alcohol. That'll balance you right out. And I'm like, oh, no, not today, Satan, not today. But I noticed it happen at least like 2, 3, or 4 times where I was just like, this is definitely a thing. And if that lady hadn't been on that show and I hadn't seen that graphic, who knows? Maybe I would have been like, oh, it is a beautiful day. And having a glass of white wine on the balcony during sunshine is such a special treat. I should have. But no, I was like, not today, Satan. I know this is just the gremlins trying to get me to feel like shit. And it worked. I didn't have any alcohol. So yeah, let these gremlins help you too. Okay. All right. On that note, well, everybody has like the weirdest nightmares of all time tonight. I think I covered everything. And if not, we'll just talk about
I
more
would.
next.
I just one thing to wrap up with what you mentioned. People, the best thing to do is to do hypnosis. But if you decide to do plant medicine, Courtney mentioned doing hypnosis before, and that's probably a hypnosis that you should do for people to have. But there, in my opinion, wouldn't it make sense to do hypnosis before and do hypnosis after to basically close out and put together everything together in full to basically it before you're unpacking what's about to be encountered.
Yes.
During the
100%.
experience, you're in the experience. At the end, when you do the hypnosis, that's basically to wrap it up and to make sure that you maximize everything that you could get out of the experience.
Yes. That's extremely good advice. Another interesting twist that you can incorporate into this. Somebody was, everything can get abused. It seems like every single thing can get abused. And hypnosis is in the category of everything. So hypnosis included. There's a really interesting story where I'm pretty sure I'm remembering this correctly. Fact check me, people. That Charles Manson, I think, was, I don't know, trained is the right word, experienced some of the MK Ultra programs, and hypnosis was used in the MK Ultra programs. And before you go, conspiracy theorist, just Google it, look it up. This is a real thing. I'm pretty sure Charles Manson was part of the MK Ultra experiments, as in he was a
I didn't
subject.
know that. I didn't know that.
Pretty sure this is right. Um,
That makes sense,
and
though.
yeah, and then when he was in prison, so weird. I really think, even though it seems like a fever dream as far as all the stuff that I'm saying, MK Ultra, Charles Manson, Danny Trejo, I think I'm saying the right celebrity. That like really cool Mexican guy who's in
Mhm.
like all the like From Dusk Till
I know.
Dawn. I think you know what I'm talking about, right? Like super
Yeah,
cool. I'm pretty sure that's an interview of him where he spent some time incarcerated, and I think he's the one that witnessed Charles Manson doing hypnosis on his fellow inmates that he learned, I'm pretty sure, in the MK Ultra program. And what he was able to do was to get these other inmates high because he could do hypnosis on them to get them reconnected to the feeling of the drugs that they couldn't get in prison. But he was like, you don't even need the drugs. Like, let me just hypnotize you and you'll get high again. And
let's
they
talk
got
about that next week. Let's talk about
okay.
that next
Yeah,
week.
after I fact checked myself and I'm like, what in the YouTube video did I watch that pulled all that together? And then the people who had not tried those drugs didn't have any effect from that hypnosis session because they didn't know like what to pull from. So they didn't have any of those effects from the drugs that they never experienced before. Super weird, super interesting.
Yeah, it makes sense, though.
Yep. Okay, and then Guillermo, the final thing that he said, he agrees. I'm pretty sure he was agreeing to me saying he's the exception to the rule because he's super, super cool. And then he says, they are prescribed, and I was in the car. So, okay. All right. Love you, Guillermo. Love you, Valerie. Love you, Aaron. Love you guys. Love hypnosis. All right. If people want to work with me, have a one-on-one session, join the group hypnosis membership, get trained as an SEH soul empowering hypnosis certified practitioner, all you have to do is go to CourtneyStarkey.com. You can buy my book at CourtneyStarkey.com. That's how you connect with me. As I was saying earlier, if you ever have any questions for me, you can type a comment in the YouTube video. I'll see it. You can also email me, Courtney at CourtneyStarkey.com, to ask me any questions and we can address them during the live. And I can also email you back. All right, Aaron, let the good people know how to work with you.
You can reach me on IG at peace4healers. You can email me at peace4healers@gmail.com. I have a special going on right now, and it's February 24th, 2025. And the special that I have right now is I have basically coaching personal development. It's $200 for 4 sessions, either weekly, bi-weekly, or whatever fits best, to work on whatever it is that you wish to develop, to improve your gifts, to learn something new. And basically we would sit down and customize what you're looking to develop and how you're looking to go about developing what that is. So it's something that's available, something again at a really great cost, and something that's going to make a difference for a lot of people. So
Cheaper than
email me
drugs,
with
more
questions
effective
on
than
that,
drugs.
and definitely cheaper than that.
Okay, and so they email you at, just say your email address one more time and then
It's,
we'll log off.
it's peace for healers, the number 4, at gmail.com.
All right, love it. Okay, and so next week we will talk about dopamine. We'll talk about addiction. Today I did not talk about the most mystical experience I've ever had. So we maybe,
We
don't
can
know
get
yet,
into that too.
maybe we'll weave that in as well.
Yeah, let's
And guys,
start with that.
do watch that video, Diary of a CEO. It's pretty priceless. You'll enjoy it a lot and get a lot out of it for your whole life. Okay. Love you guys. Aaron, love you. Everybody.